What happens when a harmless prank turns into something much darker? When a mother's worst fear becomes reality, only one question remains: how far would you go to protect your child? Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. The peaceful neighborhood of Maple Grove had always felt like a bubble of serenity, where the biggest problems were deciding what to have for dinner or which movie to watch on a Friday night. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, where children played freely in their backyards, and the sound of lawnmowers buzzed on weekends. But all of that changed on this sunny Saturday afternoon. Lily, Sarah's 9-year-old daughter, had spent the morning reading a book and had just finished her homework. She looked out the window, her eyes landing on the oak tree in the backyard, the one that had become her sanctuary. She decided to spend the rest of the day in the sunshine, weaving stories in her head and picking up fallen leaves to add to her growing collection. Her mother, Sarah, was busy in the kitchen, preparing a light lunch and catching up on the latest gossip from her neighbors. The house was calm, and everything seemed perfect, but across the street, things were about to change. Alex, Karen's son, was lurking near the fence. Alex, known throughout the neighborhood for his rebellious behavior, had been getting more reckless in recent weeks. Although he was only a year older than Lily, his actions made him seem far more mature in a way that often led him down dangerous paths. When Lily caught sight of him, she waved, unaware of his true intentions. "Hey, Alex. What's up?" Alex grinned. "Want to play a game?" His voice was strangely inviting, but his eyes held a secret mischievousness that immediately set Lily on edge. She was hesitant but curious. "What kind of game?" Before Lily could process his answer, Alex was already pulling a length of rope from his backpack. "It's easy," he said quickly. "Just a game. Trust me." Lily had no idea what he was planning. By the time she realized what was happening, Alex had already wrapped a rope tightly around her wrists, tying her to the oak tree. "Hey, stop. What are you doing?" she yelled, panic rising in her chest. "It's just a prank," Alex replied, his voice almost mocking. "Relax. You'll laugh about it later." But Lily didn't laugh. Her heart pounded as she struggled against the ropes. She could feel the tightness in her chest, her arms growing sore as she tried to free herself. "Alex, let me go. This isn't funny," she screamed, but the neighborhood remained eerily silent. No one came. Lily's cries for help were lost in the wind, and as the minutes stretched on, fear started to creep into her mind. No one was around to help. She was alone. Lily's desperation grew with each passing second. She tugged at the ropes, trying to wiggle free, but her small hands were helpless against the tight knots Alex had tied. Her throat felt dry, and her body ached with the effort. The sun blazed overhead, and sweat trickled down her forehead. But it wasn't the heat that made her shiver, it was the sheer terror of being trapped. Her voice grew hoarse from calling for help, but still, there was nothing. The usual hum of the neighborhood children playing, neighbors chatting had vanished. All she could hear was the soft rustling of leaves in the trees. It was as if the world had forgotten she existed. Just as she was beginning to lose hope, she saw her mother in the kitchen window. Sarah was humming, but as soon as her eyes locked onto Lily, her song faltered. Without thinking, she rushed outside. "Lily!" Sarah's voice rang out, full of panic as she sprinted toward her daughter. The sight of her child tied to the tree, struggling, broke something inside Sarah. She tore the ropes off as quickly as she could, but she could already see the tears in Lily's eyes. The fear etched into her face. "Mom, he just tied me up." "Alex," Lily sobbed, clinging to her mother. "Where is he?" Sarah demanded, her voice sharp with anger and fear. Lily pointed toward the house next door. "He's inside now. After he left me there." The hurt and betrayal were on Lily's voice, and it cut through Sarah like a knife. After making sure Lily was safe and calm, Sarah felt the anger she'd been holding back rise to the surface. She knew this wasn't a simple prank. It was much worse. And it wasn't the first time Alex had crossed the line. The neighborhood had grown so used to his behavior that no one ever called him out. But Sarah wasn't going to let it slide. She needed to confront Karen. She walked up to Karen's house, her thoughts racing. Would Karen acknowledge the severity of the situation? Would she even care? Karen opened the door, her expression shifting from polite curiosity to mild surprise as Sarah stood before her. "Sarah, is everything all right? Is everything all right?" Sarah repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. "Your son just tied my daughter to a tree. Karen, what the hell is wrong with you?" Karen stepped back, her mouth opening in defense. "It's just a prank, Sarah. You're overreacting." "No," Sarah snapped. "This isn't a joke. Alex terrified my daughter. And you're sitting here defending him." Karen raised her hands in a placating gesture. "He didn't mean any harm, Sarah. He's a kid. Kids do stuff like this. It's normal." "It's not normal," Sarah shouted, her voice shaking. "You need to make him apologize. And you need to hold him accountable for this. This is not just a prank, it's abuse. And if you can't see that, I'll make sure everyone else does." Karen's face reddened with frustration. "I don't need you telling me how to raise my son." She shot back, her voice defensive. "Alex is a good boy. He doesn't mean anything by it." But Sarah wasn't backing down. "Good boy or not, this behavior needs consequences. This stops now, Karen. He scared my daughter. You can't just sweep this under the rug like it's nothing." "Fine," Karen snapped, throwing her hands in the air. "I'll talk to him. But it's really not a big deal." "It is a big deal," Sarah retorted. "And if you can't see that, then I'll make sure the whole neighborhood knows the truth." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation with Karen in her head. She knew Karen wouldn't take it seriously. Karen had always been the kind of person to make excuses, and today, she did the same thing. Frustrated, Sarah grabbed her phone and called David. She needed him. She needed someone who understood the gravity of the situation. David, a former Delta Force soldier, was calm under pressure. He was her anchor, the rock that kept their family safe. David answered immediately. His calm voice, even miles away, reassured Sarah. "What's going on?" "Alex tied Lily to a tree, David, and Karen is acting like it's nothing. I need you here. We need to do something." David didn't hesitate. "I'll be home soon. I'll handle it, Sarah. You've done all you can." When David walked through the door that evening, the weight of the world seemed to lift. He didn't need to say much. His very presence was enough. Sarah had always trusted him with her heart, but now she knew he was the one who could put an end to this nightmare. He turned to Lily, who was still visibly shaken. He knelt beside her, his large frame offering a sense of safety. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. "You okay?" Lily nodded but didn't speak. Her eyes were still wide with the fear of the day's events. David stroked her hair gently, then looked at Sarah. "Where's Karen's house?" Sarah nodded toward the end of the block. "Down the street." "But David, I don't know if she'll listen. She hasn't taken this seriously. She just keeps making excuses for Alex." David kissed Sarah on the cheek. "I'll make her listen." David arrived at Karen's house, his military-trained demeanor calm but commanding. He knocked sharply on the door. Karen opened it, and the surprise on her face quickly turned to defensiveness. "David, what's going on?" Karen asked, feigning innocence. David didn't waste any time. "We need to talk about your son." Karen stiffened. "What about Alex?" "Your son tied my daughter to a tree today," David said, his voice even but firm. "And I'm here to make sure he understands that there are consequences for that kind of behavior." Karen's face turned crimson. "Alex didn't mean any harm, David. He's just a kid." David's eyes narrowed. "He scared my daughter. And if you're not going to hold him accountable, I will." Alex eventually came downstairs, looking more nervous than Sarah had ever seen him. He mumbled an apology to Lily, but it was weak. He was embarrassed, and it was clear that his mother's refusal to truly acknowledge his actions had influenced his sincerity. David stood firmly in the background, his gaze unwavering. "Alex, this isn't just about saying sorry. It's about understanding the weight of what you did. You hurt someone. You scared them. And now you need to understand why that's wrong." Alex nodded, swallowing his shame. "I'm sorry, Lily," he whispered, his eyes darting away. As the apology was made, the neighborhood began to buzz. Word spread quickly, with people discussing the confrontation and the consequences of Alex's actions. Some neighbors, who had always defended Karen, began to see the reality of what had happened. They started to shift their opinions about Alex and Karen. Karen's reputation took a hit, and her denial about Alex's behavior became harder to ignore. The whole neighborhood began to realize that sometimes the worst actions are the ones that go unnoticed, and those who turn a blind eye contribute to the problem. Asterisk. Weeks passed, and life in Maple Grove slowly returned to normal. But for Sarah and David, things would never be the same. They'd seen the lengths they had to go to protect their family, and their bond grew stronger. They had learned that sometimes you need to stand up, even when the odds are stacked against you. As for Alex, his apology had been the first step toward understanding, but the scars of that day would linger for him. And for Karen, the truth had been laid bare. She could no longer ignore the consequences of her son's actions. The neighborhood had learned a powerful lesson. There was no such thing as a harmless prank when it hurt someone. For Lily, the journey to feeling safe again would take time, but with the support of her family, she knew that she could heal.